It's the Travel Agency New Year podcast, day 135. I'm your host, Rachel Kay, travel agency owner, and I help all of you people who listen. I do thank you for tuning in, I guess, is the. God, I'm old. I thank you for listening. Always appreciate the listens. Today's episode is getting to know your consult leads before the call, and we're going to talk about how it's a little weird, but it's helpful information. Not stalking. Don't be creepy. You should have an email and a phone number and at least some sort of a name. At least that on the initial consultation form, right? But I'm not talking about full-on stalking. Just like type in the area code. Like if you don't do local and you do a lot of social stuff, type in the area code to see where they're from. They may not live in that area now, but they have at some point when they got that phone. You know. So you can be like, oh, they're from the meth capital of the United States. That's where I'm from. That's where my phone area code's from. Questionable. No. But you could have an idea like, oh, they're from a really rural part of the country, or they're from a major metro area. And like for me, having that area code, if I saw like 972, I instantly knew it was like Plano, Richardson, part of Dallas, DFW area. It's like, oh, yeah. Okay, so they're probably, and I was doing a lot of wedding consultations. So I'm like, okay, so majority of their guests are probably going to be flying out of DFW. Good chance because they're family. Because I had brides. Usually almost always the bride would schedule the consultation with me. So I'd be like, okay, bride's family, 99% sure they're all going to be flying out of DFW or somewhere nearby, Oklahoma City, maybe down in Houston, something like that. And so that would give me kind of an idea about that person. And if I got weirdo area codes, I'd be like, oh, they're in BFE. No one in this group has ever traveled, probably. And so, like, kind of give you an idea of how much handholding they're going to need and how aligned they are with your ICA. Because your ICA, you should have an idea of where they live, right? So if you see the area code and it pops up a major metro area, if you search it, you don't have to search their name or anything. But just having their area code and knowing where it's coming from, you have a pretty good idea of if their like deep core values might be, and like kind of a family background-ish. Like, are they Southern? Are they Midwestern? Are they Northern? Are they West Coast, East Coast, Mountain? And also, are they metro or rural when they got this cell phone number? Because there's a high chance everyone, well, not me because I'm older, but everyone under a certain age, when they get their cell phone, they just carry that number with them forever. But that's like, if they're, I'm trying to think of the right age right now. I would say maybe 35 max. I don't know about anyone over 35. That area code is probably tied to their childhood. Sneaky, sneaky. So you can get a lot of demographic information. And I know a lot of people who are older than that, and their area code is tied to their like hometown childhood where they grew up. But that's not necessarily always the case, but it can often be. All right. You're probably, I mean, you could type in their name if you wanted to and do a Google search, or you could do like a Facebook profile search. But if your clients lean younger, they probably won't have a Facebook profile. And if they do, they haven't touched it since they were in middle school or high school. So I don't know. You probably won't find a whole lot of public information. And if you do, there's so many people with similar names. You're just going to be like, I have no idea who this person is. It's not going to help me. Then if you really wanted to, you could match it with the area code, but then even then, it might not be the right person, right? You might be able to get an idea of like what their career is by searching their name and then like the city of the area code. If it just happens to show up that this person still lives in that area and their LinkedIn just immediately pops up. Um, you can also possibly gauge if they are even like adults. I have had consultations for destination weddings, like just turned 18, barely 18. That is not my ideal client at all. And also, I'm like, you're a baby. Why are you getting married and traveling internationally at the same time? No. If you get them from social media, it's a lot easier to get information, like DMs, instead of just scheduling a call right away, because you can just click on their profile and then be like, oh, okay, well, I have an idea of this background. And you can compare like the basic demographic information with your ICA and be like, does that at least line up? Because if that at least lines up, you're doing something right with your marketing, right? Which, by the way, I talked about this a little bit in yesterday's episode, but marketing doesn't necessarily have to be scheduling posts all the time. It can just be like highly engaging in online communities. Okay. With having this information, if you can find anything or if it's on their social media profile and it's just like open to the public what they do for a living, if you can find that information, it is super helpful to understand like with their area code, you can get an idea of like where they grew up, probably. Um, B, oh, excuse me. If you have any knowledge on kind of what they do for a living, you can align it with your ICA, but you can also understand, oh, this person's a nurse. They work crazy hours. They're going to need a lot of help and they're going to need somebody who can just like almost psychically do it for them and lead them through the process. And like for me, with nurses I've had book, like they're often very overworked. They're very, very, very tired. Heart shout out to anyone in healthcare and nursing, by the way. Um, they often need like friendly reminders of like, hey, you gotta pay for this trip, you know, like final payments coming up. um, what else? They don't want to have to worry about anything because they often worry about everything at work. But like anyone in healthcare is often in those shoes. Teacher, if you know the person is a teacher, you're like, oh, they're gonna want to travel in the summer. You know what I mean? Like most likely, they're going to want to travel in the summertime because that's when they have time off to do it, right? If they aren't like coaching sports stuff in the summer, and even if they do, they have a window of time, most likely in the summer or at Christmas. And most teachers don't want to take high season Christmas vacations because they're super expensive and they are teachers. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, you can gather a little bit of information based on like if you can find their social profile. It's like, I do this for a living. Or if you can find like a LinkedIn. And it really helps you prepare. So you're going to know ahead of time. And you're not going to be like, by the way, on the consultation, I totally stalked you. Usually what I'll say, because I have over time I've worked so many different jobs where I had to have like area codes for work, like phone numbers. And I'm really good at remembering numbers and sequences of numbers, and I tie them to names, and I tie them to cities as well. Like now, especially with the area codes. And I'll tell you a story in a second about that, which I don't remember if I've told this story before or not, but I'm gonna tell it anyway, again, even if you've never heard it before. But I'm really, really good at area codes now, to the point where I will see, oh, I think it's 305. And I'm like, who's calling me from Miami? Ignore. Like, it doesn't pop up on my phone like, this is from Miami. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh, that's like Ohio. If I don't totally remember it, I'm like, that area code is like Ohio. Why is someone from Ohio calling me? And with wrapping up my destination weddings now, even though I have a strict schedule call with me, there's always a handful of guests who just are like, I want my money. It's my money and I need it now. Like J.G. Wentworth style with me. And I'll be like, look down. I'm like, oh, Michigan area code. That's this wedding. And then I'm like, I got meetings. I will return their call later. Sometimes I'll be a little like reinforcing my boundaries and I will find the associated email tied to that phone number on my guest list. And then I'll be like, hi, I saw that you called me. I haven't had a chance to check voicemail. You can reply to this email. Email's best for communication. Anyway, so now the story, because I have all these notes, but the story about my weird number memory. So I used to work at this brewery and they had this thing called mug clubbers and you paid, I don't know, this is so long ago. So in today's dollars, I'd imagine it would be like 200 or $250 a year to be a mug clubber. And you were assigned one specific mug and it had this special little plate on the handle of the mug that was like your special mug number. And it hung from the main bar downstairs because this is like a 2-story place. And they had to use those like shepherd's hooks to get them down. The bartenders would when you came in. So they had them on the bottom as well. And I didn't remember anyone's name. I didn't remember I didn't even know their name. I never even asked their name. But the second I was a server, and the second someone was like, I'm a mug clubber, and they're like, I'm mug clubber 215. And then I'd write down their order, and their entire order would be associated with the number 215, which was their face. So when I saw their face, I'm like, 215. And I often did breakfast and like some dinner shifts, but I'd be like, oh, they want the regular breakfast special with 2 eggs over easy. They want sausage links, but sometimes they like patties, and I could just like ramble it all off, and like just from and then would remember the type of beer, or if they preferred a Bloody Mary, and people loved it because they were like, I don't even have to think, and they would like bring in their little groups and be like, can we get Rachel? And I even had one of the owners. There was like 15 owners for this brewery. It's ridiculous. That I served on New Year's Eve. And he was a mug clubber because he's one of the owners, right? And it was like him and his wife and another couple. And he was like, I hear you remember everyone's order. And I was like, only if you're a mug clubber. I didn't know he was one of the owners. And he's like, well, I am. And here's my number. And I was like, okay. And then he's like, I'm going to have, gosh, this was like 15 years ago. And he had the pork tenderloin. It had like a pineapple chutney entree. He came in 4 months later and requested to sit at my table. And he's like, what did I have on New Year's Eve? And I was like, well, you're mug clubber number 7. And you had better. And he's like, this is what is that movie? Rain Man? This is my Rain Man. Okay. I hope you found some entertainment in that. So what I'm saying is, that was a total tangent. If you kind of have an idea of like their area code, what is city or state or region, whatever it's tied to, and the demographics surrounding that region, that can be helpful information. If they DM you on socials, you're probably going to see what they do for a living very easily. And that's going to give you an idea of like what they're going to want and need before you even have the call. Now, don't go super deep and like try to do weird background checks online. Don't go into that stuff. Just like, you know, type in the area code. Where's the area code from? Gives you an idea. You could do a quick search. Like they've clearly searched you, just to see if they're real and maybe gather some information before the call. All right, that was day 135. I've got everything out of order. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the process and communications for consultations. We're doing a little consultation. This may slam my notebook work over the next few days. What is this last episode about? Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining. And I know this went on a weird tangent. I hope you found it at least entertaining. Yeah. Have a good day. Bye.